All right, what we're going to do first is we're making beet burgers. Now, a lot of times people say, well, I want to eat healthy, but I don't really know how to do certain things or make things that actually taste good, right? So if I gave this to you on a plate, it would very well be very healthy for you, right? But you might not want to eat it exactly like this. So what we're going to do is actually show you a very tasty way to enjoy something that is very good for you as well. You know, the beets do taste good to me by themselves anyway, but for some people, they like it prepared in a different manner. So we're actually going to make this into a beet burger. It's going to look red like a burger, and then when it bakes, it's going to brown up like a burger, and it's going to taste very similar to a very good burger. It's going to be very good. All right, we're going to start off first of all with adding water, and you have that on your recipe. It's 3 cups of water. We're going to pour that into the blender. This is actually not a very, very, very difficult recipe. The hardest thing is actually assembling the pieces, but we've tried to do it in a way that's super simple, right? So we're actually going to just blend it up into like a slurry kind of a thing, then add it, and then we're going to thicken it up. But when you actually see it into the burger form, it looks really good, okay? So bear with us, because this is actually kind of fun. So we've got our water in here. The next thing we need to add are the beets. And this is just 1 medium beet here. See how red they are? Good blood builder, right? If you'll notice, this recipe has nuts, it has seeds, it has whole grain. So it's actually a variety of you can eat a burger it's like a meal almost in one. And when you taste the way the burger tastes, that's why we're doing it first, because it takes a little bit of time to actually cook it. But you'll be like, hopefully you will enjoy it as much as we do. Oh, I put the peppers in there, which is okay, because the next thing after the beets is actually the celery. I like the way Carlene cut these up here. Celery. And you know what? To make this a little simpler, I'm going to go ahead and start blending it in, because it's really a blend recipe. Look at all those colors. Isn't that beautiful? You've got orange and green and red. You've got white. Got some black beans. It's really pretty. All right, so let's go ahead and start. So after the celery, we're going to add our onions. Let that blend all in there. Then after the onions, we've got the garlic. And after the garlic, we've got the sweet peppers. Then we've got 1 cup of carrots. Lots of beta carotene, right? Good for you. All right, after the carrots, then we're going to start with some omegas. It says that you're going to add 1 cup of walnuts or pecans. We had both, so we said, well, which one should we do, the walnuts or the pecans? So what we did was we did a 1/2 cup of walnuts and a 1/2 cup of pecans. So you get a taste of what it will taste like, a little bit of both. I like it with either one, so it doesn't matter. The last time I did it with just walnuts. So that's a lot of good nuts. Nuts are very good for you because they actually help with hearts. They say a 1/4 cup in the palm of your hand. Excellent. So we've got our nuts in there, right? Then we're going to add our sunflower seeds. Is this hard? The blender's doing the work, right? All right. Add our sunflower seeds. Now, I said raw, but to get them raw, you have to go to a health food store. If you can't find raw, they do sell them that are already baked at Walmart or Food Lion or local stores. So you try to get the raw, but if you can't find it, it's okay. Use the ones that are already baked. I like the raw because they don't have the added oil to them already and all the other stuff. I mean, I get to add the oil that I want. As you notice, this recipe has no oil in it, other than the oil that's naturally in it. We don't add any oil to it, okay? So we've got our nuts, our seeds, our veggies there. And the next thing we have are olives. Now, olives are very, very, very good. That's what gives it a really nice meaty flavor, right? I like these olives because they are natural. They're natural olives. They look like green olives, but they taste like a regular black olives because they don't add the, usually the olives actually add, let me pause this for a moment. Usually what happens is the olives actually have something, I think it's called lactic acid, that actually makes it to keep it that dark color, right? And which is, it's not the worst thing in the world. So if you can't find this olive, just rinse it off and, It's okay. But if you can, Walmart sells these, and they taste great. They actually have a better flavor. They taste better than the other ones, and there's just not any added ingredients. Because, I mean, they do that for the olive to look good. It's not for your health, right? So we just try to eliminate. In this one, there's only, the ingredients are ripe olives, water, and sea salt. That's it. And this is what olives really look like, right? They really look like this. There's nothing to keep the color or add to the color or make them darker or anything like that. This is just a pure olive. And when you start eating olives like this, at least I have, and I know of other people who've transitioned to this olive, the taste of the other olives begin to taste like you don't really like them because the other olives have a taste. They taste chemically after you've eat something like this that doesn't have it on it. You can tell the difference. Your body can tell the difference. So it's something that's really good and something to try if you get a chance. Okay, so that's the olives, and that adds a really nice flavor. Okay, we're going to go ahead and blend this up. The next ingredients, we're really not going to blend it up super because this just going to pulse it. So that was the olives, and now the beans, because we kind of want the beans to have a little bit of texture anyway. This blender's getting full, isn't it? I guess you might have to half this recipe if you were doing this. 1, 2, 3. All right. That's bad. That's good enough. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, put it on a burner, and stir it up very carefully. I suppose that what we could have done is actually use a little less water. But all right. Lots of color. Then once we pour it in here, we're going to add to it. To this, we're going to actually add our seasonings, which is the salt, the basil, thyme, and oregano. And we've got it all in here in this one container here. All right, here we are. Now we have our seasonings. And we'll let that. This thickens up. You're going to let it kind of come to a boil. And as it comes to a boil, you'll actually start to smell all those seasonings come together. The onions and garlic, you'll start to, that's pretty good. There you go. Now, the only other thing we have to add to this recipe is the whole grain oats, right? A great way to have your oatmeal too, right? Yep. We're going to actually, now, this one it's actually called optional. And what it is usually when you make this recipe, you have to let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes just to let it cool down and get to the consistency that you can actually mold it and shape it into something that you can use, right? But for our sakes today, and what I actually like to do even when I make this at home is I don't have a lot of time to wait anyway either. I use this to actually thicken it up even more so that it's actually able to work with before, so it doesn't have to take a long time. I'll show you. It's okay. We're going to go ahead. Usually I could wait until this actually comes to a complete boil. Oh, I smell it now. It's starting to smell really good. It'll take a moment before you can actually smell it over there, but it's good. All right. Then we're going to add our oatmeal to this. And you'll see that it's going to start to thicken up. If it sat for 15 minutes, this alone would actually thicken to the consistency where you can actually make it into something. Into the burger. In fact, I'm going to let it sit just for a little bit so you can see how it does thicken up on its own. Because this makes over 30 burgers. Well over 30 burgers. I mean, it makes 30 good-sized burgers. And that lasts a long time. So you put it in the freezer. I mean, if you're 1 or 2 people, that could last you for a whole month almost. At least a couple of weeks, right? I mean, a whole month adding 1 person, that's like a burger a day. But these are so good, you probably eat 2 burgers a day. So a couple of weeks. And do you see the consistency that's gotten so far? It's going to thicken up a little more than that. What was in the bowl was actually oatmeal. It was Quaker Oats oatmeal. It could have been any oats, but Quaker Oats is good. And what it is, it says heart healthy. And one thing about oatmeal and why people say really oatmeal is really, 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 really good for you, in addition to the fact that it is a whole grain, and whole grains are very good, oatmeal has soluble fiber, which is very, very important, and that's what makes it heart heart healthy, because the soluble fiber is able to break down. And why that is so important for you and me is because our arteries and our veins, our vessels, and even our capillaries, it can actually go inside those tiny vessels and clean them out. No medicine does that. No medicine. Not medicine, I'm going to say drugs. No drug does that. Because what drugs do is they actually do things with they do things that actually trick the brain or trick the things in terms of sending out responses. But oatmeal does something that actually goes to the cause. And whenever you're dealing with something of illness, you want to go to the cause, right? If you're trying to prevent heart disease, right, should you trick your brain to saying, well, I don't have a problem? No, that's not going to solve the problem, right? You need to go directly to the problem. Heart disease, the problem with that is you've got some clogged vessels, right? And they need to be unclogged, right? If you've got a pipe and it gets clogged, you have to unclog the pipe so that what's inside the blood for us will continue to flow through without a problem, right? So if you want the blood to flow through, you need soluble fiber to go into those vessels, break it up, and pull out cholesterol and things that don't need to be in there and clean it up. Oatmeal does it. And when people eat oatmeal, they find that they have lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, without even trying or thinking about it. It just does it. This is something that God created. It's not something that man can take any responsibility. We just recognize this is what God's food does, okay? We recognize it. Thank you, God. You've got the solution for us, and you made it simple, and you made it taste good. It's something that we can actually eat and enjoy, and it's like, phew, it's really good. So oatmeal, heart healthy. And the reason they say that, it says, diets rich in whole grain foods and other plant foods and low in saturated fat and cholesterol may help reduce the risk of heart disease. It does a lot to reduce the risk of heart disease. Not only heart disease, cancer, diabetes, the whole 9 yards. Whole grain products actually do that. So this is another way of getting whole grain fiber in without, in addition to having oatmeal, which is great, it's another way of actually enjoying your oatmeal in a burger form, okay? Okay, so here we are. This is starting to thicken up now a little bit. Do you want to get a shot of what it looks like now? And it will thicken up even more. It's going to thicken up even more. So you know how oatmeal, when you let it sit on the burner and it sits there for like a long time, it gets really, really, really thick? That's what this would do if we let it sit there that long, okay? But now, for the sake of time, and because I like the flavor, I like adding lots of vegetables. I like adding a variety of nuts. I like adding a variety of seeds. I also like adding a variety of whole grains. Oatmeal is one grain that's great, but when you add other grains to it, that's even greater. So this particular cereal is actually a wheat berry. And again, I like to say, look at the back. What is actually in this cereal? There's only a few ingredients, but those ingredients are great. It's whole wheat kernels. I mean, what can go wrong with actually eating the kernel of the whole wheat? I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Whole flaxseed. They did it for me, right? Salt and barley malt. That's it. No, I mean, usually you get like a paragraph, and then they may have another paragraph for the nutrients, other things that they add to it. That's all that this one has in it. There's nothing else added to it. This comes from Walmart. So most of the things that we try to do is things that you can actually buy and try here, this local, because if you have to go somewhere else to get it, most people probably wouldn't do it. So we try to keep it simple, okay? Okay, so now what we're going to do is thicken this up. And I say it takes about 2 cups, but I'm going to add until it thickens up. So if it takes a little more than 2 cups, that's fine. I'm going to show you the consistency that we're looking for, though, okay? So, and again, letting it sit would offset some of this. Plus, it makes more that way. Whenever you're making burgers and you add oatmeal or something like that to it, it stretches it out. So this actually enables us to actually make even more. So we're going to let it just cool off a little bit and thicken up. It did get thicker, and as it cools, it's going to get a little more thicker. So I'm just going to let it cool off while we go to the next one, okay? So now we're back with our burgers. And now it's something you can actually maneuver, shape, and make into something that you want, okay? See how the consistency now? It's no longer, it's something that you can pick up. Before we couldn't pick it up, right? You can pull it apart, shape it, make it, and mold it, okay? And that's what we wanted to do. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a lid. We want these to look good. You spent some time on it, right? So you want to make it into something that looks authentic. And I think I put a little bit too much oil on here, but I put a little oil in here at first too, just to make it easy for the burger to come off. Just a little bit, not much at all. This is just the lid that's on a quart jar, mason jar, any regular quart jar, canning jar. Yeah. Okay, so then we take this, put it in there, and then what we do, it's a nice little shaper that most people will have, and it push it off here. There we go. Looks like a burger, right? And this, I like the uniformity because when you freeze it and they're all uniform, the same shape, it just makes it easier. And plus it makes it a lot prettier. When you're actually eating it, it just makes it so much better. And doing it this way, especially since we added the Uncle Sam's, this will, the only oil that we added, as you saw, was the oil that I used in the pan and a little oil in the lid. And that's it. No added oil. I mean, of course, the nuts have oil in them already, and that's why we don't have to add any additional oil. Absolutely no cholesterol. So there's nothing in here to clog your arteries. It's actually a declogging burger. Declog the artery burger. Okay? So it actually has the opposite effect. And you see how pretty red this is? When it cooks, it will brown just like a burger and look very similar to a burger. And the flavor is good too. Recipe, because you get the idea of what this is going to look like. I'm going to fill the pan up, and then what they're going to do is bake for a few minutes on each side, and then that'll be it. I like to bake instead of fry because then again you don't have, the problems associated with frying. Okay, we bake it at 350 for about 10 minutes on each side. I mean, it could be about 15 minutes depending on how thick your burger is. I mean, if you want a thinner burger, it'll be a little less time. Thicker burger, it'll be a little more time, but somewhere about 10 minutes at 350. You can look, each oven is different. So, that's just a guide. You want it to be brown on each side. It's red now, but it will be brown. It'll look like a really nice burger. We're going to dextrinize some flour. This is all you do is you take the flour. This is whole wheat flour. We're going to dextrinize flour so we can actually make a gravy. And this is Southern style gravy that my mom actually showed, but she did it a little differently, but this is the essence of it. The first thing you have to do is actually brown the flour. I think the technical term is dextrinize it, but you actually brown flour. And it's not simple. It's very simple. It's not complex. So the first thing we're going to do, this is just a pan. There's not even any oil on the pan. It's just a clean pan. And you want to kind of have it single layer as much as possible, and so that it will actually brown out. Okay, we're sticking that in the oven for about 5 minutes while everything else is actually cooking. Then we're going to bring that back out. Okay, that's just going to go and get brown, and once it gets brown, we're going to come back and use it in our gravy recipe. To make a gravy, you need to get the flavor into the gravy. What we're actually going to do is put some oil in the pan. I may not use all of this at one time, just enough mainly to cover the bottom. And I'll add some more at the other part. And then you're going to add onions. Now, usually people get gravy from fat, right? Then we're going to actually saute these onions and garlic. Again, onions and garlic is actually what's giving us the flavor. And I'm going to do the garlic. These garlic presses come in kind of handy. Just push it out, and it gets rid of all those nice chunks there. All right, so we've got the onions and the garlic. To that, we're going to add our salt. I don't want to add the rest of the seasonings quite yet, just the salt. And hopefully this will start to sizzle in just a moment. A regular stove, it's hot and it's ready to go right away. But while that's doing its thing, this is what the burger kind of looks like. I did some fat, hold on. Let me use this one. Some are a little bigger than others. And, yeah. So now we're just doing a gravy that will go on top of these. I'm going to go ahead and blend up the nuts while that's actually getting hot. Here we go. You want to help too? All right, she's ready to go. I'm making the Brazil nut mixture. This is water and Brazil nuts. I may not need quite as much water. I may just pull a little bit out of here just in case. All right, that's what I was waiting for. Now we're starting to hear it sizzle. Because that's what gravy has to have, a flavor, right? And so that's where we're getting our flavor from, the onions, garlic, and the oil. And we didn't quite use 1/4 of a cup. As you see, I still have some reserve. So that's probably like 1/8 of a cup, maybe a couple tablespoons there. Just enough to keep the onions from sticking to the pan. And plus, it does give it a little flavor because gravy implies a little bit of oil, right? But it's not a lot. As you see, it's not a lot. Okay, so here we are with the Brazil nuts and water. Because this is where I'm getting most of my oil from, my nuts. This, as you see, got brown. Can you smell it? It has a different flavor. Can you smell the difference? Yeah. So this, oh, you smell the onions, right? Okay. All right. So anyway, this is dextrose flour. So we're going to put the flour in here, and I'm not going to quite use, this gives you one of those old-time Southern-style gravies where, you know, they used to make them back in the day before they bought gravy already done. This is just straight gravy. I'm probably not going to use all of that. Onions, garlic with the gravy, with the flour rather, right? Then all you do is, all right, so then to this we're going to add Brazil nuts and water, our milk, Brazil nut milk, okay? Traditional gravy has what in it? Anybody know? Lots of it, right? A whole lot of fat. And, you know, fat back, whatever. And usually that's the type of fat that clogs the artery. Goes in there. It tastes good. It's savory, but, you know, it's that fat that's kind of going and sticking to you. This one's a little different. So instead of going in and clogging the arteries, it's actually reversing heart disease. You know, that's what we want. And you won't taste that much of a difference. So, all right, good. We got to sizzle. That's what I wanted. All right. And if you had a whole lot of time, you could actually pour that in a lot slower and incorporate it in, but make sure we don't have any clumps here. But it should be okay like it is. Now, if I had a little more time and the gravy and the flour got a little darker, it would be a little darker. But this is still a nice color right here. Just a little bit. You don't want it too brown. You don't want it burnt or anything like that. About 5 minutes is plenty enough time. Once I get this in, I'm going to add the rest of the seasonings there. The thyme, the basil, oregano. Give it a little more flavor. And top it off with a little oil. Again, we're still on that 4th cup of oil right there. So it's not a whole lot, considering this is a big pan of gravy. Okay? And then all we do, I need that water that's in there. I might need a little bit more water just to thin this out a little bit. A little gravy, a little flour goes a long way. I mean, you talk about something that's economical. Gravy is something that is not super expensive. Anytime you're dealing with flour, you really it's really more like an experience. You just kind of look at it, see it, taste it, you know, it's kind of hard to give us precise because some days the flour may act a certain way, and another day it may work a little differently. So to make sure that we've got enough of the flavor in here that we're looking for, I'm going to put the rest of this in here, finishing up our oil. Make sure we have all our seasonings in there, because that's really what's giving it the flavor, because there's no fat back in here, right? But we still want it to taste good, and it will. It tastes better, actually. All right. Now, you can actually make potatoes and put that on top of your potatoes. It's really good. country style gravy and biscuits. Okay, we're going to get a second witness. A little salt, a little bit more oil. There we go. And maybe a little paprika. Just a little bit of paprika. I think it's right over there. Just a tinge. Not enough to make it red, but just to give it that extra kick of a flavor. There we go. Then is that onion powder over there? We can add a little more, but actually, you know what? We won't worry about it. We'll just let it go like that. You give a witness and see if it needs something else, and then we'll go from there. It is a little thick right now because it has that flour thick. And this is old-fashioned country-style gravy. If you want to be creative, you can actually cut up some olives and add olives to it. And all we do is we layer our patties on here. Yeah, it's an old-fashioned country-style gravy. Slithered onions. Sean, can somebody pass me one onion? I'm just going to slice the onion, put it on top, and then stick it in the oven, and that would look like a country-style dish.
Okay, hello. Today we're going to make coconut cheesecake, or you can call it chocolatey ice cream pie. And what we're going to do first is make the crust. So the first thing you need to do is use a blender and actually I have the recipe, so one of those recipes that you have will make 2 pies. But I'm halving the recipe today, okay? So this will make 1 pie. So I'm going to add almonds and Brazil nuts. So first we're going to blend this up. And then after you blend it up, you can blend up just a little. We're going to put it in a bowl. And if it has a little bit of the nut pieces, it's okay because it's good to have like a little nice nut crust. And actually nuts, they actually clear out the arteries, and it has no cholesterol in it. Brazil nuts actually have selenium, which is good for cancer. It seems like everything that God made is good for cancer. And it seems like everything that's bad and poison that Satan invented causes cancer. So God's way is best. So I have the nuts in here. And I have salt and flour. This is whole wheat flour. And I'm going to stir it up. Add some coconut oil. This is extra virgin coconut oil. And then add some maple syrup. Okay, so that's it for the pie crust. Just mix it up. And it's going to actually kind of come together. You see how it's like that kind of consistency there. So then now, I'm going to put I put some coconut oil in the pan. And now I'm just going to put the pie filling in here. Just flatten it out. Now we're going to bake this in the oven at 350 for about 10 to 15 minutes. So now in the blender we're going to add coconut milk. Now you have to be careful at the coconut milk that you get because we looked, like I said last night, we looked and it had it wasn't this brand, it was another brand, and it had lots of ingredients in it. But this one only has 3 ingredients: coconut, water, and agar gum. Another thing you have to be careful for this recipe is you want it to be the coconut milk. You don't want it to be the light coconut milk because that one doesn't have as much fat, and you want it to be kind of creamy. So the regular one is good. So this is the kind to get. Okay, so next, what we're going to add to it is pecans and maple syrup, flour and salt. This is whole wheat flour. We're going to add a half a tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And on the recipe, it says a tablespoon because we're halving it, okay? I'm going to blend it up a little bit more. I like to blend things up for a while. Make sure it's blended well. Okay, so now this pot is really hot. Good. I'm going to pour this in the pan. And you want to thicken it on the pan. In the pan. Yeah, it has to thicken up. Now this is the funny part. This right here, which you might not know about it, some people might not know about this. This is called carob powder. And it's a cocoa powder substitute. It has no caffeine and it actually comes from a fruit. And this is just with one ingredient. It's natural roasted carob powder. So now what I'm going to do is do this. I had some, I'm going to actually put it in with my maple syrup stuff here. Or you can pour it in directly, but I'm just going to add it in with this, okay? You get this from a health food store. Like Whole Foods. Okay, so now I have some carob powder. And you can put it in your measuring cup. After you measure your coconut, your maple syrup, you can put it in here. Or you don't have to. It's up to you. But when you put carob powder or cocoa powder, which we're not going to use cocoa powder because it has caffeine. When you put carob powder in desserts, you're like wanting all the clumps to come out, right? But in this recipe, you want the clumps in there because it actually looks pretty. It looks like carob chips. Well, we call it carob chips because this is carob powder instead of chocolate. But it looks like carob chips when you actually have it clumpy like this. It's quite neat. So, whenever you add the carob powder and however you add it in, don't worry about the clumps because when you cut it, it's going to look really pretty. You see the clumps in there? You don't have to worry about it. Unless if there's some big ones, you can get rid of it. Okay, so it's getting thicker now. This is the pie crust that came out of the oven. Now what we're going to do is add the filling in. So I'm pour that in there. And then we're going to add some coconut flakes on top. And this coconut you can get at Walmart. This coconut you can get at Walmart. And the thing I like about this coconut is it has one ingredient in it. And the one ingredient is coconut, which that's what coconut flakes is supposed to have, is coconut. That's it, organic coconut. So, we're going to actually put that on the top of the pie. And then we're going to put it back into the oven, okay? For about 5 to 7 minutes. And that's it. After you bake it in the oven for 350 degrees for about 7 minutes, you're going to let it cool off, and then you can freeze it or refrigerate it. And that's it.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. I'm putting some garlic and powder. Now put some salt on it. I want to add some honey. Raw honey. And I'll put some basil. I'm going to put some olive oil. Then paprika. Sit. Then sit. Put it in the oven. About like 10 minutes.
Today we're gonna make regular okra. He made barbecue okra, but I'm gonna make regular okra. So first, put oil on the pan. So add okra. And so mix that up. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water. All of it. It'll steam out after a while. And salt. That's it. Sliding out the pan. So I'm putting in the oven around 3 and 350 around there, and cook it till it gets crispy.
So I have here, now if you can put whatever you want in your salad, I have a beautiful rainbow. See, it has some white with red, orange, yellow, green, some more green right there, but I have some radishes, carrots, sweet, the small peppers that you get in the bag and get at Food Line. I think you get at Walmart, excuse me. The sweet bell peppers. That has vitamin C in it. Of course, you have your celery, good for lowering your blood pressure, helping with arthritis. And then this radish here is actually very good for you. I believe it's a cruciferous. It's part of the cruciferous vegetable family. But and here the lettuce, I have iceberg lettuce and I have some romaine. So I'm gonna add these vegetables to this, and then we're gonna make a dressing, which is pretty quick and simple. We decided Italian, so, and it's quick and simple. I don't need a blender for that. Put that to the side. There's a salad right there, as you can see. The next thing we're gonna do is the dressing. In this jar, I have some freshly squeezed lemon juice. All you need is one lemon. You just squeeze it. You had a recipe on your paper. Just squeeze the lemon, get a lemon squeezer and press it, get the juice out of it, separate it from the seeds. And we use lemon juice in place of vinegar because vinegar is basically fermented. So I got a pinch of sage. I'll put that in there. 2 tablespoons of olive oil before I forget. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. One teaspoon of salt. And a half teaspoon of everything else. We got oregano here. So I'm gonna add that. And basil leaves. I'm gonna add this, basil. But I got all the seasonings in here. The only thing I'm gonna do now is just shake it up. See how simple I made this? Just shake it up. Then I just pour it on. Yep, just mix it in. And that's pretty much it. Pretty simple. You have a basic Italian dressing.